Hello, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Ask Rob and Rob, where you get double the goodness. No, not me and Rob. Two juicy property questions that we're going to answer, and we do answer every single week on a Tuesday. And if you would like to get involved in the show and hear your question read out, and probably more importantly, answered, you can get involved too. It's super simple.
Yes, it is. You can pick up your phone and call 013 808 0035. That's 013 808 0035. Or if you prefer, just go to thepropertyhub.net/ask and you can leave us a voicemail that way. However you do it, doesn't really matter. Just make sure you get your question in. And that is exactly what Bryan did.
Hi, my name is Bryan. I'd really like to seek your advice in terms of a buy-to-let property. I'm based overseas. I've got around £100,000. I'm looking to invest that £100,000 into a buy-to-let property and would like to seek some advice from the Property Podcast in terms of areas that I should look to invest that money into. Really appreciate your help. Thank you.
Good question, Bryan, and hello to all our overseas listeners. It's great to have you. I'm not surprised that this question's coming at all, because at the moment, to overseas investors, the UK is on sale. The pound has been devaluing day by day, it seems, and we are very cheap if you are paid in a currency different to the pound. So if you're overseas and you have money overseas, then it's no surprise that you're interested in UK property. So, where should you spend your hard-earned cash? Where should you invest it? Well, I think investing overseas, you've got to think about what's important. And when you invest overseas, it's got to be a hands-off experience and low maintenance. It doesn't have to be, but why make it any more difficult for yourself? Personally, if it was me, I'd be looking at major towns and cities, probably the northern powerhouse, your likes of your Manchesters, your Leeds, your Birminghams, your Liverpools, etc. Looking at those areas, I'm probably looking at apartments because, again, low maintenance, we talked about that on the podcast. And finally, I'd be targeting professionals. So quite a vanilla, almost boring strategy, but one that's going to work well for you because obviously you can't get hands-on. It's going to be a lot more difficult working that from overseas. You should probably also look at making sure you've got a good network and contact base back in the UK who can look after your affairs for you too.
Yeah, exactly. I think an important thing to keep in mind is that if you are overseas, you're probably not going to be in a position to pick up the absolute deal of the century. You're not going to be able to go and view loads and loads and loads of properties, look into every last corner of the UK to find the very best performer, but that doesn't really matter. You probably don't want to stress yourself out about that and just pick to something, like Rob says, that's safe and easy and something you know. So maybe you pick a city that you've got knowledge of. Maybe you pick somewhere where you've got family or some kind of support network already. Of course, you can take on professionals to do pretty much anything you want to do. But some people find it more reassuring to have people they know nearby as well, just in case. You also said in the question that you were looking to buy a buy-to-let property. Something to think about is if you are able to get a mortgage, which is very tricky for people who are overseas sometimes. But if you could diversify and get a couple of properties instead, spread out your risk a little bit. That's probably a wise thing to do, just so you don't have all your eggs in one basket.
Okay, thank you, Bryan. And as promised, we have another question in. And this one's in from Louise. And she lives somewhere sunny, which sounds nice. But she isn't overseas. She's in Kent.
Hi Rob and Rob, my name is Louise, I live in sunny Kent and my question is a follow-on from the live webinar you did recently focusing on Brexit. You covered different aspects, but I would just like your clarification on how you anticipate the market will move in the next 7 to 10 years with the quantum easing and the added funds from the Bank of England that you discussed. You mentioned the initial market wobble, followed by increase in property prices, followed by a crash. I'm interested to know, when do you think the property crash will be? Look forward to hearing from you and keep up the good work, guys. Thanks, Louise.
Now this is a tough one. It's one thing to know what's going to happen, but the tricky bit is the timing. Unfortunately, the key bit is the timing, but actually being able to look to what's happened in the past and extrapolate to how things are going to move in the future is pretty easy. Pinning a date on it is very, very tricky indeed. So off you go, Rob.
Thank you, Rob. Nice. Okay, so we're somewhere near a wobble at the moment, and I don't think that's going to come as a great surprise with all the things that are going on and the uncertainty. The 18-year property cycle says that the big crash that you alluded to is going to be around 2025. Now, this is not an exact science, so I am not saying, and I know Rob wouldn't say, for a single moment that it will definitely happen in 2025. However, if you give it a few years either side, then you're probably going to be there or thereabouts. I think if you stop investing at 2022, you should be okay. I will say though, Louise, don't please come to me if it all goes down in 2021 and you were just going at your biggest point then. But 2022 is probably where you want to stop, because the last part of the cycle is called the winner's curse, and that's where the real amateurs get in, and you should pause or possibly get a bit of your portfolio out to take advantage of the next phase, which will be after the crash, which will be a 4-year plateau, or as I like to call it, 4 years of opportunity. So a little while to go yet, plenty of growth to happen before we get there, but don't forget the 18-year cycle when it's all getting very exciting in the media in a few years' time, because that's why we talk about it, so you can take advantage of it and not be punished.
Yeah, and the real key thing, I think, is to look at what's going on. So rather than obsessing about exact dates, listening to us, because we've not been spot on with our timing at all points in the past, just look at what's happening and sort of try to read the signals for what's going on. I think that the boom that we're going to have is going to be a very big boom, and I think that the bust that comes afterwards is going to be enormous as well. So the key is to have the knowledge to be able to ignore the noise, look around you and sort of see how things feel. And you don't have to time it to absolute perfection and stay in till the absolute heights or buy back in at the absolute trough. Just by keeping your eyes open and seeing what's going on, you should be able to take advantage of the cycle without getting burnt by it, which is what happens to most people.
So Louise, I hope that helps. As you've just heard, you've got plenty of time, so no need to worry. And as it's sunny in Kent right now, get ready for a sunny property market, but beware of those long-term storms ahead. Now, a little announcement for you. I know that you've probably still got plenty to get on with in 2016. Well, you haven't got that much time left, but I'm sure a lot of you are already turning your attention to 2017 and what you're going to achieve in property. Well, what we're going to achieve is we're going to hold 4 summits next year. So in 2016 we did 6, but we're cutting it down to 4. Not because they weren't popular, they all sold out months in advance. It's just the timing commitments of getting us both in a room at the same time throughout the year. So we are going to do 4 next year, and we're pleased to say the first one has been announced for February. So if you want to kickstart your property investment year, make sure you check out thepropertyhub.net/summit. Now, you're not going to hear us go on about this a lot because they do sell out months in advance. So you've been warned. Don't come crying to us when the tickets have gone. Your opportunity's there now. The next ones won't be until a few months later down the line. So if you want to get into the first one of the year, you've been trying to for a while, go to thepropertyhub.net/summit and get yourself a ticket while you still can.
Yeah, we did 2 last February and they both sold out well in advance. So these definitely won't stick around long. And something else that we'd love you to join us for, of course, is the Property Podcast this Thursday, as it is every Thursday. And then we'll be back with Ask Rob and Rob next Tuesday, as we are every Tuesday, to ask more of your property questions. We'll see you in a bit. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.